So, what if you could actually tackle some of the world's biggest challenges right from your own backyard? Seriously. Today, we're going to dive into this amazing framework for weaving resilience. It's basically a practical guide for making a real, tangible difference exactly where you are.
You know, to figure out where we're going, we kind of have to know where we came from. And our story, well, it doesn't just start when we're born. It's part of a much, much bigger narrative called The Great Story. This is the epic tale of the universe itself, a 13.8 billion year journey from stardust and supernovas to us. I mean, think about that. We are quite literally the universe waking up and becoming aware of itself. But this incredible story has hit a really critical chapter. Right now, we are living in a time that is completely defined by one massive challenge: ecological overshoot. And that has become the central, driving tension of our modern story. So, what exactly is ecological overshoot? Well, to put it simply, it's when our collective human demand for resources outstrips what the Earth can actually regenerate in a year. Think of it like a global bank account. We are consistently withdrawing more capital than the interest it generates. And you don't have to be an economist to know that it's just fundamentally unsustainable. And this isn't some abstract problem for the future. The scale of this is just staggering. Right now, over 85% of the entire world's population lives in countries that are ecological debtors. That means they use more from nature than their own ecosystems can renew. This is our shared global reality today. So when you see a number like that, it can feel, well, paralyzing, right? It's so easy to feel anxious or just completely overwhelmed. So the most important question becomes, how do we shift our perspective? How do we possibly move from that feeling of helplessness to one of actual empowerment and, effective action? So, how do we do it? Well, the path forward can actually be broken down into a 5-step framework. And this isn't just theory. It's a clear, actionable roadmap that's designed to take us from just understanding the problem to actually becoming part of the solution. All right, let's kick off with the first part of our journey, finding our place and building up the inner strength we're going to need for the work ahead. This is all about changing our focus from the huge, abstract global scale to the real, tangible, local one. And the key idea here is something called bioregionalism. It's asking us to see our home not by its political lines, like a city or a state, but by its natural ones. So, for example, instead of just thinking, I live in Cold Spring, you start to see yourself as living within the Sauk River watershed in a very specific prairie-forest transition zone. It's about deeply, truly understanding your life place. And the most fundamental organizing principle of any bioregion? It's the watershed. This is a great way to think about it. The network of rivers and creeks is basically the land's circulatory system. It's carrying the lifeblood, water, all across the landscape. And once you really start to understand your watershed, you begin to see the profound way that everything around you is connected. Now, understanding our place is a massive first step. But let's be honest, to face a challenge as big as ecological overshoot without just falling into despair, we also need to cultivate our inner resources. This is about building our emotional fortitude for the long journey ahead. And this is where a practice called active hope comes in. It's not about blind optimism or just wishing things were better. It's a continuous cycle. You start by seeing the world clearly, all the challenges included. Then you identify your specific hopes for the future. And finally, and this is the key, you take intentional action to move toward that vision. It's the psychological engine that keeps us moving forward when the work gets tough. Okay, so we've grounded ourselves in our place, we've started to cultivate our inner strength. Now we need the practical toolkit, the how-to for actually designing and building a more resilient world. We're going to focus on 2 incredibly powerful tools that really work hand in hand. First up is permaculture, which is a practical design system for creating regenerative systems in our environment. And second, there's revolutionary love, which is a social framework for building the compassionate, resilient communities that are needed to sustain them. At the very heart of permaculture are 3 simple but really profound ethics: earth care, people care, and fair share. These act like a compass for every decision. So on your property on, say, Hermitage Road, earth care might mean choosing native plants that support local pollinators. People care means that the food forest you plant also feeds your family and your neighbors. And fair share, that's when you realize your apple trees produced way more than you can eat, so you share the surplus with the local food shelf. See? It's a practical, ethical checklist for every single action. Now let's look at the social side of things. This is the revolutionary love compass. Its core idea is to see no stranger. It's a practice for intentionally expanding our circle of care and building the strong, compassionate relationships that are the absolute bedrock of any resilient community. And this practice unfolds across 4 interconnected dimensions, moving from the inside out. It all starts with love for yourself, which builds inner compassion and helps avoid burnout. From there, it expands to love for others in your community. Then, it challenges us to show love even for opponents by tending to the wounds of conflict. And finally, it all connects right back to a deep ecological love for the earth itself. So we have our place, we have our inner strength, and we have our tools. The final step is to bring it all together. It's time to translate all this understanding into a personal plan of action. I just love this image because it perfectly captures the spirit of this final stage. You are the captain of this ship. You've gathered the knowledge, you've gathered the skills, and now it's time to chart your own course, to create your own unique bioregional action map. But, a blank map can be pretty intimidating. So the really crucial question is, where do you actually begin? How do you make this feel achievable instead of just overwhelming? Well, you begin with these guiding principles. And the most important one, start small and start now. Focus on what you can actually control. Maybe your very first goal is just installing a rain barrel. But here's the key. That barrel isn't just a plastic tub. It's an act that aligns with your bioregional story. It reduces runoff into the Sauk River watershed. It's a tiny, controllable action that connects you to the entire larger system. And this is so important to remember. This map is not set in stone. It's a living document. It's meant to evolve as you learn and grow. So think of it less like a rigid plan and more like a guide, a tool to help you guide your actions and celebrate your progress along the way. And really, it all comes down to this. We've talked about these huge concepts, the 13.8 billion year great story, the massive challenge of ecological overshoot. But the solution doesn't start with something impossibly huge. It starts right here. Every regenerative forest, every resilient community, it all begins with this simple, intentional act of planting a single seed. So that leaves us with one final, powerful question. Thinking about your own life place, your own community, your own unique story. What is the very first seed of change that you will plant? We have built our world on a high-stakes assumption that our industrial momentum is as unsinkable as the steel hulls we once set into the Atlantic. But the elephant in the room has grown too large to ignore, moving out of our private shadows and into the center of our lives. This is the Metacrisis, the tipping point where the stories of endless growth collide with the physical limits of our planet. It reduces us to passengers, waiting like roadkill on the side of a life we no longer control. Paralyzed by the headlines, watching for the next wave to break. Yet, when the ship finally cracks, the passenger's role ends, and the adventurer's begins. The very failure of the old world becomes a direct call to a planetary adventure. This is the invitation to step out of the heavy aura of the past and into the absolute power of the present moment. The Lifeboat Mini-Course is your immediate, structured transition, a free 5-day journey delivered to your inbox to transform global anxiety into local resilience. As the unsinkable systems fracture, we must stop asking for permission and start acting as co-creators of the cosmos, mapping a new way forward through our own backyards. Day 1 begins with an audit of the invisible, the energy and water systems you rely on every hour, yet rarely ever see. Day 2 forces a change in your geographical lens, challenging you to locate your true home within your watershed and local bioregion. You won't navigate this terrain alone. You will receive daily study guides and synthesized patterns designed to cut through the noise and reveal the architecture of change. Day 3 asks you to practice active hope in a world facing ecological overshoot. Day 4 introduces the demanding standard of revolutionary love. By tracing the water back to your neighbor's tap, you move beyond the narrow walls of self-help and into the expansive, interconnected practice of systems health. The climax arrives on Day 5 with the introduction of a specific framework for your future, the 9x21 harvest. You will commit to 9 concrete actions to be executed over the next 9 days, weeks, or years to build your cosmic legacy. You will then write the 7-generation letter,
speaking across time to a resident of your town in the year 2026 to explain the uncommon choices you made today. This legacy is a unified dance, a work of restoration that cannot be built in isolation. Who is your mutual guiding spirit in this transition, and which 9 things will you choose to do? Stop waiting for the headlines to crush you. Sign up for the Lifeboat mini course now. Access your Day 1 materials immediately and join the community hub where the next story of our world is already being written.
You can remain tied to the illusion of a collapsing global credit card, or take this course to begin building real systems health today. The Earth is tired of the lie. It is time to dance with the truth.